These are my full thoughts on the games that happened on Saturday. Mamelodi Sundowns and Ahly, the 0-0, and Orlando Pirates versus Pyramids, the 0-0 in the CAF Champions League semi-final. We'll start with the result. Both teams, I believe, are in a little bit of a difficult position. Going to Egypt away, 0-0, I do definitely think, also based on how both teams played, the opposition was better. I think we have to admit, for both Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns, they did not bring out their best performances. Ahly and Pyramids are definitely the happier teams with their performances on the day. Sundowns in a way survived, and Orlando Pirates also survived, and both teams they needed to be rescued by VAR, so we know that. So going to the second leg, I do think it's advantage both Egyptian teams. With that being said, it is not a bad thing that neither of them lost the game. It is still a draw, and it will be based on a one-off tie now to decide the semi-finals. If Pirates or Sundowns score an away goal, then we know that the game cannot end in a draw because of the away goal. So if Pirates get a goal or if Sundowns get a goal, they just need to ensure that they do not lose the game. That will be enough to see them through because of the away goal. So it's not doom and gloom. We know that both teams have goals in them. For Pirates, they have beaten Ahly in Cairo, so they can draw inspiration from that. And for Mamelodi Sundowns, they have gotten the better of Ahly in recent history. However, Ahly are the defending champions, so it's not easy. Whereas Pyramids, as Jose Rivero said, is the most difficult team that he has faced so far in this CAF Champions League. So it definitely does not look easy. In my opinion, based on the performance that we saw, I thought the Egyptian teams were happier, or the Egyptian teams got what they wanted. I thought their performances were better than both Mamelodi Sundowns and Pirates, so they will be the happier team, and they would have the most confidence going into the second leg. So now getting into a deeper discussion, we'll start with Orlando Pirates. I definitely do think, first of all, the change of stadium negatively affected Orlando Pirates in this. We know the Orlando Stadium was unavailable to be used as it's Easter holidays, a Christian holiday. The Grace Bible Church was using it for their conference. And I believe that in a way, although it was a noble and moral thing to do by Orlando Pirates, as they openly admitted to willingly changing the venue to accommodate this huge Christian yearly event. It happens every year. South Africa, we are a praying country. We are a Christian country. Even Orlando Pirates Football Club believes, right, in praying. So therefore, they support the religious request to use the stadium for such a prestigious and huge time of the year for Christians, right? So the Orlando Pirates media officer came out and said that they respect culture. You need to understand your surroundings, the country that you're in, your environment, the supporters, and the country as a whole. And because of that, they are willing to accommodate the Easter request for Grace Bible Church to use the facility. However, for me, FNB Stadium did not play well for Orlando Pirates. We know that there's a huge difference in both the stadiums. For example, FNB Stadium is a 90,000 seater, so it is more difficult to fill, and in this case, it was not full, right? So it was not full, not just for Orlando Pirates. You also heard Cardoso complaining about Mamelodi Sundowns fans not filling their stadium. Then it is even more difficult to fill FNB. Last time Orlando Pirates also played Mamelodi Sundowns at the FNB Stadium, it was not full, but people said that is also taking into account that it was on a Sunday and the weather was not the greatest. So that was pretty unusual for a big game, so the stadium wasn't full. But in this case, I do think that if it was at the Orlando Stadium, the atmosphere would have been better. The stadium is smaller, so the capacity of the stadium would have been utilized a little bit more. It is closer to the ground, so it adds an intimidating atmosphere. I do think Pyramids settled easily at FNB. Players were slipping. Orlando Pirates players were slipping. We know maybe the pitch at FNB is a little bit more differently maintained, more artificial. So that also contributed to Orlando Pirates not having their best game. The atmosphere wasn't intimidating and close enough to the field like at Esgodini. I do think that as Orlando Pirates, it would have been better to play at home, especially since the home crowd played a huge role in Orlando Pirates holding on for a 0-0 draw against MC Alger in the quarterfinal. So for me, that was a huge thing that automatically threw Pirates off and affected Orlando Pirates performances. For me, that is a huge thing that we should not forget. Getting into the game, Pyramids settled. They created the better chances, I would say, than Orlando Pirates. Orlando Pirates shaded possession about 55% to their 45%, right? And in this case, I do think they created the better chances. Orlando Pirates' best player was Tito. Tito was Orlando Pirates' best player. Anything that Pirates were trying to do, it came through Tito. Yes, it came through Tito. He literally was, you could see from the first 15 minutes, he was very confident. He was dribbling, he was getting on the ball, creating chances, even getting the shot away. Orlando Pirates had one shot on target that came from Tito, and I think in the second half, Tito also hit the bar. So by far, Tito was the best player for Orlando Pirates, and I do think everyone else really had a disappointing game, maybe apart from Makaula, Talented Bata, and Sibisi. So the Orlando Pirates spine is pretty strong, right? So Chain, Sibisi, Makaula, I think is pretty solid in that midfield. I love Talented Bata. I think he complements Makaula so well. I think he obviously adds more to Orlando Pirates going forward. He wins the ball clean as well and can keep it. He's more technical than Makaula, who does the dirty job for Pirates, but he's been doing a fabulous job for Pirates all season. One of the players of the season for sure. And we know Sibisi is a proper captain. He's very solid, but their striker Mayele gave Orlando Pirates problems the whole game. Unfortunately, his goal was ruled out for offside. It was contentious. I have made multiple videos on that. I definitely do believe VAR made the right decision, as Mbogazi was not in control. The rule says that if you basically take everything into account, for example, how much time he had to react to the ball being played. Did he have control? Did he deliberately play the ball? I do not believe he had control. I do think Mbogazi instinctively jumped, and therefore automatically means he could not have control, and therefore VAR and the referee, all of them, they had to relook at the situation, as they thought that a clear and obvious error was made by allowing the goal, and they came to a conclusion that the goal shouldn't have stood. And we know for sure the second goal wasn't going to stand, because whether it's unintentional or intentional, if the ball hits your arm or hand and goes directly into the goal will not stand. That is a rule all over the world, and it has been amended to say no one can benefit directly from the ball hitting your arm, even if it's ball to hand and going directly into goal. So Pirates did not rob Pyramids, but Pyramids were the better team. I definitely do think Rile Mofokeng, there's been a huge drop in form. He was very quiet in that game. Ngota had a very poor game. Mabasa, I was so disappointed. I do think Ribeiro got it wrong by starting Mabasa. We know Mabasa has goals in him, but lately he has opted for Mahopa. Mahopa is a better all-round footballer than Mabasa. Mahopa makes Pirates play. He can interlink well with Mufokeng and Nkota, and I think when he came on, Pirates was able to move a little bit better in the final third and create better chances. I definitely do think Mahopa's hold-up play is better than Mabasa's hold-up play, and how he passes and his movement, I definitely do think is better than Mabasa, whereas Mabasa is undoubtedly the better finisher. Jose Rivero has had to manage that all season, and I do think he's done extremely well, simply because now he's recently dropped Mabasa when he's had a good season scoring lots of goals, but he's also trying to keep the both of them happy. So it's been a very difficult job for Jose Rivero, but I think he's done well. But in this case, I definitely do think he should have went with Mahopa as a starting 11. Van Rooyen with a brilliant match-saving tackle after Hoto made a mistake. I just want to say props to Van Rooyen. What a tackle. He chased all the way and helped his teammate out there. He bailed Hoto out. And Pirates were making lots of mistakes. Players were sleeping. Even Sipo Chain made mistakes. But at the end of the day, Pirates survive. Hoto is another player that had a disappointing game for me. Unfortunately, he looked leggy for the first time in my life. I did watch the game at the stadium. He looked like he was tired. He was making too many errors, and he also got a big chance that didn't really do much with it. And I just thought he was getting caught too much up the field, and that allowed Pyramids to attack on the right-hand side for them and our left-hand side of defense, because Hoto was caught out of position and he looked tired tracking back. And at some point when he did make that mistake, you could see hands up going immediately up to apologize to his teammates, and they were telling him, please keep your head up, because his head was down and he thought he was having a bad game. It's one of those, it's rare. Hoto is he's probably the best Orlando Pirates player, and he is consistent, plays every single game. So he's entitled to an off game. However, I do think Pyramids again was the better team. Coach Jose Rivero also said that they had chances, but anything can happen in Cairo. Like I said, Pirates did beat Ahly in Cairo, and Pirates can score, and we know Pirates have the best defense in the competition, which is also very important now going to Cairo, where Pyramids are the highest scoring team, I believe, in the competition left. So it's going to be tough for Pirates, but I do think definitely anything can happen. However, based on what I've seen, I would then say fairly predict, even though I'm an Orlando Pirates fan, I would predict Pyramids to knock Pirates out, as they were the better team. Right, so anything can happen. Definitely Pirates need to have a better game, and if Pirates score, like I said, Pyramids would have to score too. So yeah, Pirates just need to at least get a goal. Then we know the game cannot end in a draw, as Pirates will go through on the away goals. So with that being said, overall, both teams, both Sundowns and Pirates, have been doing absolutely amazing this season. Pirates are literally still in contention for 4 titles. MTN 8 already secured. Nedbank Cup final still to come with Kaizer Chiefs. 3 points if they win their game in hand behind Mamelodi Sundowns in the league with a few games to go. Right, so that is still a huge amount of trophies to play for if you include this CAF, where they are in the semi-finals and basically almost 2 games away from winning the whole thing. Very impressive by Orlando Pirates. So many games played, but they've only lost 5 games the whole season. Pirates have an over 71% win rate. That is extremely impressive. You also know this is Jose Rivero's last season, right? So it is extremely impressive what Jose Rivero has been able to do in his final season. It's extremely special, also taking into account that he's won the MTN 8 3 times in a row, 3 years in a row, and has reached the Nedbank Cup final 3 years in a row successively as well. He's reached the Nedbank Cup final 3 years in a row and has won 2 of them previously. So if he wins against Chiefs, that is literally, back to back to back, back to back to back in cup competition. So extremely amazing season that Pirates are having, one of their best in PSL history as well. So we wish them all the best in Cairo, but at the end of the day, that is my full review on the game. Now on to Mamelodi Sundowns. I do think Mamelodi Sundowns and Ahly are scared of each other. They also respect each other a lot, but they also fear each other, and that led to the game that we saw. Ahly were extremely defensive because they've also lost against Mamelodi Sundowns on multiple occasions. Other times they've been beaten 5, right? They've conceded 5 at Loftus, so they had to be cautious, and that was their game plan. As the defending champions of CAF and the best team on the continent in history, Sundowns were always up against quality. I think Ahly are extremely tidy on the ball. So even when they won it, they made the game tight and cagey and boring. But when they got it, they were very careful with the ball, very neat, and they looked to hit Sundowns on the break. Sundowns also did well not to concede and not, to concede an away goal. It's very, very important. But I think that was the game plan by Ahly. They believe that they can win it in Egypt, in Cairo. So that is going to be extremely, extremely difficult for Sundowns. I do think Sundowns are a better attacking team in general than Ahly, but in CAF, Sundowns have struggled to score goals. So they scored only 1 in both their quarterfinal legs. They only scored 1-0 in the first leg and then drew 0-0, and now they failed to score again. And we also know they failed to score in multiple group stage games, whereas Ahly won both their games in the quarterfinals. So it is most likely that Ahly can or will win at home. However, Sundowns can draw inspiration from the fact that Pirates did beat Al Ahly in Cairo already this season and scored 2 goals there. So Al Ahly aren't perfect, they do concede. But Coach Cardoso did slam fan attendance, saying that the stadium was not full. South Africa and Mamelodi Sundowns fans did not turn up for this huge event, semi-final CAF Champions League game. I definitely do think that, Sundowns have had games where it was full. Yes, obviously influenced by the fact that sometimes tickets were free, especially maybe if you look at last season in the African Football League final against Wydad Casablanca. In this case, I do think tickets were 20 Rand. Did that affect the situation a little bit? Possibly. But to be honest, I do think Sundowns fans did turn up. Yes, the stadium was not full to the brim, but I do think there was enough fans there to create a good atmosphere for Sundowns to go win the game. He's saying that the players needed an extra push simply because, the fans can be a 12th man. They can provide that, and a full stadium can create that very toxic atmosphere. But we've seen, I think I understand his point, because we've seen that when Sundowns went to Tunisia last time and when Pirates went to Algeria, you saw how the North African teams literally created such a hostile environment by all turning up and filling their stadiums to capacity and creating a very, very uncomfortable place for these two teams to play. So it is going to be tough for Pirates and Sundowns when they travel away. So I do understand his point. But I do think Sundowns, they did turn up in numbers. That was a good attendance for them. In general, South African football has struggled over the years to fill stadiums. We need to acknowledge that Chiefs have a very good record of attending, even though they're not doing as well. They sell out a lot of their games. So congratulations, I would say, to the Kosi Nation, if you are watching this, for showing up for your team. And most stadiums get sold out when Chiefs are participating. If it's Sundowns and Chiefs fans, they turn up. So no Chiefs in this case, and obviously it's an international sort of competition, so not local. Did that have an effect? I don't know. But in general, Sundowns, anything can happen when they get to Cairo. They believe that they can still win it. Sundowns are an extremely talented side with a talented group of players. I am criticizing Coach Cardoso starting Matthews. I don't think Matthews has done enough and has been crucial when he's been subbed on in other games to deserve a start. But it seemed like he tried something new. I do think Reynolds would have been a better option. I don't think he should have tried to change his formula too much, what he knows, and it looked like he did that. Maybe he didn't want the criticism of starting both Shaulile and Reynolds, but I do think that was the way to go in this game. And maybe with Reynolds' pace and his natural finishing ability, that's better than Tashreeq Matthews. And I love Tashreeq, by the way, but I do think in a game against Al Ahly, he was going to struggle in terms of physicality, and also if Al Ahly was sitting deep, which they were. So I am critical of that by Coach Cardoso. And with that being said, Sundowns have also done extremely well. We know they've just been knocked out narrowly by Chiefs with an offside goal in the Nedbank semi-finals. So Sundowns are still in pole position to win the league. Even if Pirates win their games in hand, Sundowns are still 3 points clear. So they look like they are the most likely team to win the league, their own league. And also now in the semi-finals of CAF, now they need a big game. They've played a lot of games with a 69% win rate. That is not too bad, especially when you consider that they did change management a few times. If you include the fact that Rulani left at the beginning of the season, Coach Mangoba wasn't in the driver's seat for too long. So with all those changes, Sundowns have done pretty well this season. Yes, they didn't win domestic cups again for another year. Maybe they'll look to fix that next season, but it doesn't mean that it's not been a successful year. They also still have the Club World Cup coming up. So I do think it is important for Sundowns to establish themselves on the continent, and therefore, really give it their all in the semi-final second leg upcoming. I wish both Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates well in their second legs away in Egypt. That is my full review of both teams and what I saw this weekend. So yeah, with that being said, that is my video. Please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget, Stellenbosch also lost 1-0 to Simba, but coach Steve Barker said that they believe that Simba is beatable. We also know that a South African coach, Fatlu Davis, he is coaching Simba and is doing well in the CAF Confederation Cup. Their semi-finals as well. Stellenbosch have a home second leg to try turn around the 1-0 deficit. There was controversy for VAR. I do think the goal was fine. I don't think there's too much wrong with them. I think both were onside and neither of the players touched the ball. So both made an attempt for the ball, but because they were coming on an onside position, they didn't really, you can't say they disturbed the keeper. It's offside. So I do think VAR also made the right decision, but it's up to Stellenbosch to turn it around at home. But it's going to be difficult because if Simba score 1, away goals also count. Then Stellenbosch are going to need to score 3 in total to win the tie. So that's very difficult. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe. Check out the other videos on my channel. We cover Premier League, Champions League, as well as local football. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like. Thank you so much to everyone that shares. Thank you so much to everyone that comments. I try to respond to most of my comments. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.